Good morning, Madison, Dane County. Madison, 1670, WTDY. Bill Kessler here with Dan Cruz from Century 21 Affiliated. Good morning, Dan. How are you doing this morning?
I'm having an absolute wonderful morning. How about you, Bill?
I see you're still doing the McDonald's stuff, so you're not believing in the Starbucks economy yet, huh?
I still got the papers, I still got the computer, I still got the Mickey D's.
All right, looking good, though.
Yeah.
Real estate today, real facts, real truth, real discussions. Hopefully Dan and I don't agree on everything. We shouldn't, or else it would be silly to have a dialogue on a radio show. So what's happening since last week at the marketplace?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. This year we've certainly seen a lot of peaks and valleys, but the last week or so we've seen a lot of good activity. Showings seem to be up. Seems like buyers are out there doing a few things in this fall market. Offers are starting to roll in, so it really is a positive uptick that we've seen in the marketplace. How long will that last? None of us have any idea. But maybe the people are actually taking some of our advice, and there's some opportunities out there and going out and buying some properties. So, yeah, things are good.
Well, you know, every once in a while we mention this, but I think we probably should again, that Dan and I are partners with Century 21 Affiliated. And before his arrival, I was considered the ultimate optimist. You know, like everything was good. And Dan, it's great to have you around because now I'm more like in the middle.
I know. Did I take over that role from you?
Oh, you have superseded the next space.
Well, you know, we can sit here and talk about doom and glooming and feel all bad about ourselves.
Neither of us.
That's not. I mean, there's some truth that things aren't perfect, but you know what? There's great opportunities, and you got to look at the good sides of it.
Right. And both of us wake up in the morning and see the opportunity rather than the pitfall, and glass half full, and that's
how we do it.
literally what this market's about.
Yep.
So, all right, there's stuff going on. And in the past, we've talked about a few of the niches, and we also talked about niches that have some opportunity. We've also talked about statistics in general and what's going on now that we are almost a third of the way into the fourth quarter, Q4 of 2010, in comparison to Q4, fourth quarter of 2009. And also what early prognostications are for Q1, first quarter of 2011. So Dan, you're up on it.
Yeah, I'm going to give just a real quick recap if you missed last week's show. But we talked about quarter four of this year compared to quarter four of last year. And last year we had the tax credit that took place, which bumped up the numbers. Actually, quarter four of 2009 was actually a really good quarter. When it's all said and done, when we look back at quarter four of this year, the numbers will look extremely low compared to last year. One of the big reasons is because of that tax credit that took place. And another big reason is because of the tax credit that took place in 2010 earlier that ended in June. So the quarter four of this year is going to look low compared to that other data out there, but it doesn't mean I think the market is as bad as everybody's going to be touting at that particular point.
Well, optimists that we are, what we have learned over the years, and I'm hopeful most professionals in our industry and all learn the same thing, which is that you're better off underestimating and predicting negative information, so that when it comes, you can reduce the impact of that information.
Right.
So we are predicting a downturn in terms of statistical analysis for the fourth quarter of 2010.
Well, I mean, we know it's going to happen, but I don't think the picture that's going to be painted isn't nearly as bad as it really is.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, that's what we just said was going to happen, and here's the reasons it happened, and some of them are fundamental to what's going on in the economy, and others are just statistical anomalies based on when the housing credit closings occurred in 2009 versus 2010.
Yeah, and let's take a little bigger picture look at this, because I received some information as of recent of the actual National Association of Realtors, actual information from the last 10 years on number of home sales and average sale price.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was extremely interesting. And not only did they give all this information on everything that took place over that 10-year period, but they also put it into perspective of what an actual housing cycle looks like. And if you were to look at the numbers from the last 10 years, going back 10 years ago, all the way through today, there's 8 cycles of the housing market. Obviously, cycle 1 is both units and prices going up. Moves all the way through to both units and prices going down, and the actual 8th and final phase is when sides go up or units go up but values stay the same. And if you were to look at the last 10 years, we have actually gone through the entire cycle of the housing market, all the way till right now. We currently be in phase 8, where sides have slightly gone up, but prices have not changed, and they've actually stayed flat. So if we're to say history is any sort of indicator on what's going to happen in the future, actually everything points that we have almost totally rounded out the complete housing cycle, and we will eventually get back to phase 1. Now, here's the important thing to think about. We don't know what exactly phase 1 is going to look like. I'm not saying it's going to be a hockey stick where we've gone through all 8 phases and all of a sudden, spring of 2011, we're going to have this hockey stick, and all of a sudden sales are going to go flying off the charts, and values are going to appreciate by 50%. That's not going to happen. But I do really think that when we look back, quarter 4 of 2010 will be the absolute trough. We will bottom out the housing market in quarter 4 of 2010, and we're going to start seeing a slow uptick starting quarter 1 of 2011. That slow uptick just means we will simply start feeling some appreciation in values, and we will start increasing sales. Not by huge amounts, but there will be an increase.
All right. Well, we have a strong prediction here from Dan. So, Dan, you're predicting that, as you prognosticate, that quarter 4 2010 will be the trough of the market of this 5 years of declining and exasperating market.
You've heard it here first. And it's interesting, I was just out at a conference and I was meeting with the president of Realogy, which is a company in charge of Century 21, Coldwell Banker, and ERA, the strongest brands in real estate. And he felt exactly the same way I did. After looking at some of this data, him and I talked about it, he felt quarter 4, when we look back, quarter 4 of 2010 will be the absolute bottom of the marketplace. So at least I got one follower.
You could be right. All right, let's say you are right. What does that mean?
Well,
and then we'll talk about what if you're wrong.
Okay, great. Let's do that, absolutely. So what if I'm right? What if I'm right? Right now, we probably have the best opportunities in real estate that we'll ever see, because the housing market right now is still in a tough situation. Values aren't appreciating like they used to. Everybody's kind of down on housing right now. There's awesome opportunities to buy. Everybody wants to buy at the low end of the market, right? That's what, no matter if it's stocks, whether it's real estate, whatever it is.
Get the best deal.
So if I'm right,
that's why you make McDonald's.
If I'm right, now is the ultimate time to invest in real estate, whether you're an investor in buying income properties, or you're a move-up buyer, or you're just purchasing your first home ever. It's an awesome time to invest in real estate, because we will eventually start taking out of this, and that will prove as a good investment.
And what is your prognostication on interest rates?
Well, I mean, right now they're extremely low. Money's cheap. It's a great time to buy because of that. I don't think they can get any lower. So once again, another call to action is if this is the perfect storm and we eventually will start seeing a recovery, whatever that is, interest rates are low, housing market is a great buying opportunities. It's kind of the perfect storm for both of those. Because I think they will start ticking up eventually, interest rates, that is.
We're almost at the point that Japan was at 10 years ago, where they had 0 interest rates on their savings, and almost deflation instead of inflation.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think they can get much lower. I mean, anytime you can get a loan in the 4s, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Or even the 3s.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't imagine they're going to go much lower. So I would, if I was to guess, just a guess, in my professional opinion, they're not going to get much lower. They're going to start eventually ticking up. So that's the pinnacle of low interest rates, low housing market, hey, equals time to buy.
So based on history of the 8 cycles of real estate, based on the history of interest rates, based on the fact that we have midterm elections coming up, based on what's happening with unemployment and everything else in general, it is your analysis that we are at the bottom.
I do, and you make a really good point about the elections coming up, because I think there is a little bit of a hesitation in some people because they're waiting to see what's going to happen with some of these elections, and they want to see what's going to happen as a government structure. And as that takes place and that unfolds, I think we're going to see some action taking place. So whether let's say that is the beginning of 2011, that's just another layer of this whole thing of recovery. So
Right. And with the elections, what is going to happen?
you ask me what's going to happen in the elections?
Sure.
I have no clue. None of us do.
Traditionally, in midterm, the party out of power
Yeah.
recaptures some of that power back from the party in power. So there certainly should be a strong Republican resurgence in the congressional districts and some of the Senate districts, and certainly in the gubernatorial races around the country.
That's where everything's pointing, and everybody's saying is we will have a rush in the Republican Party.
And people are so frustrated with whoever is in charge of whatever they're in charge of that they want to throw the rascals out.
Right.
So even some of the Republican rascals are being thrown out by the Tea Party people. So it's all going to be said and done. So when that's all accomplished, then what do we have left? We have left the same situation we had before, which is we could still have political gridlock in Washington, and I'm not sure anything really is going to change. Point being that if you're going to act, why not act before the election when there's uncertainty with others? Because not all that much, I don't think, is going to change afterwards.
No, and anticipation is a huge thing we always talk about. And if you can anticipate, what may happen and act before it does, you're in the best position of anyone.
All right, so we have about a minute and a half left. Let's say you're wrong. This is not the trough.
Okay.
Well, then all right. So the people have gone out there and they bought this house for $250,000, and it depreciates down to $230,000. They got a 4% mortgage, and now they can get a 3% mortgage. So what does that mean?
Okay. So let's say I am wrong. And let's say interest rates do go down. Okay, I'll do it quick.
38 seconds.
if I am wrong, you're not in that bad of a position, even if I am wrong.
Why?
Because housing is still a good investment, still a long-term investment, and the reason you're purchasing this is to have long-term investment either way.
So the hedge for me is that when you finance, you don't pay a bunch of upfront closing costs so that you can refinance
Sure.
if it goes down. And if you pay 10% over trough, that's not bad because this thing started at 50% over trough.
Absolutely.
So you're not bad at all, and a pretty good gamble, and I think that's okay. So as we move forward, Dan, in the coming weeks, we'll talk about other niche opportunities in real estate. We'll talk about more information as we get even closer to the election. And appreciate you being here this morning. Dan Cruz, here with Bill Kessler, myself. Real Estate Today, real facts, real truth. Madison 1670, WTDY. Go Bears!